Hey everybody, welcome back. So now that we've got those patches backed up, the next order of business is to pull out all these plugs all around here, unscrew the bolts, pull out this CPU board, and get it over to the shop where we're going to desolder this built-in battery, and we're going to replace it with a battery clip and a fresh new battery that should last this guy for at least another 2 decades. Here is the Juno-106 CPU board, and it has now been removed from all the harnesses. Now the harnesses here are brilliantly done. They're so elegantly wired together, and in terms of the rope that ties them and the zap ties as well. Now I had to cut some of these zap ties because they were actually anchored in at the corners. See these little holes here? They're anchored into the corners. We'll see about zap tying them back in when we're done. Or not. It's not totally necessary, so we'll see how it goes. In the meantime, let's get this guy on the bench and let's get this battery out of there. Here we are over at the workbench, and I've got the board here, but let's have a look at how these chips are doing. Now, they've only been inside this jar for about a day, but I can already see from looking at them that the resin is starting to bubble up, because of course this is acetone, and acetone is a pretty powerful industrial chemical. So the resin is losing the fight, but we're not going to go in there picking, because you know what, just leave them for a few more days and the resin will be completely dissolved, except for the main body shells. For example, here's an example of two body shells, such body shells from another chip that was stripped quite some time ago, and as you can see, if you leave them in long enough, what ends up happening is they just crack along the edges, and then you can just remove the shells completely without having to do any digging. So we're going to let that happen over here. They can just sort of sit. And I'll put this over here, and next up we just have to desolder this guy. So I'm going to turn on my desoldering tool. Ooh, actually, you know what? Happen to know for a fact that these tabs here are actually relatively large. Oh, what have we here? Now, do you see this wire? What this wire is this is actually a circuit mod that was recommended by Roland. This indicates to me that Dave's Juno-106 is actually one of the early runs. Not super early, because it has the square flip switch, and you know the really early ones have those little circular pole flip switches, but this one has a square flip switch, but at the same time its serial number is low enough that it requires this mod in order for the battery not to be unduly drained by maintaining the memory. And I have a separate video on that which explains how this mod is necessary, but basically it takes the ground and puts it here to this pin here, pin number 5 of IC4, and in so doing it basically stops current from leaking to ground from the battery. So at any rate, I'm going to actually, before I turn on the vacuum desolderer, I'm actually going to change out the tip. Remember yesterday or the other day I had the tip set to small aperture. I'm going to put it back to wide aperture for this next step, and of course this is totally cool so I can touch it, and I'll do that and I'll fire this up. When it's good and warm, we'll come right back. Hey everyone, welcome back. Alright, so we are ready to rock. Let's get these battery terminals desoldered. Overkill, I guess, using this guy. You could use a straight desoldering tool for this if you wanted to. It's not the end of the world if you don't have a vacuum desolderer like I do. This is something that could be done with a solder pult, because it doesn't involve any ICs or chip legs or anything like that. Okay, alright, so that was really all there was to that. And you'll see that at this point I can just pull. Oh, can I? No, I can't actually. No, it wasn't quite desoldered. So go figure. This is what I get for not wearing my headgear. Okay, hang on a second here. I use a magnifier normally when I do this, but I'm trying to document all this for everybody watching, so let's just do this again. And over here one more time. Alright. That's got that sorted out. Now they are loose and willing to come out. Okay, so now we have basically a blank board, and put my thumb over here, hang on a moment, there it is. That's where it goes, and of course I already have laid in a good stock supply of these clips, because you know I do a lot of this these days. It's sort of become a bit of a crazy hobby of mine. Now the positive terminal is the one that's high up, like so, and that's one goes on this side, and then over here the other side, you can tell, see how it attaches to this big plane. That whole section of metal all around is actually a ground, so that's going to be the negative side. And I'm just going to fit this down into the hole. And as I recall, the spacing on these terminals are not exactly 100%. And I bend it out just a little bit. So let's see, what have I got? This is a bit like a fly with a rocket launcher, but I don't want to stop video just now. I'm going to use this monster here just to pull out this leg just a little bit. Just a little taper is all it needs. And on the other side, same thing. And a little bit of extra taper means that this will now fit into the hole with nary a problem. Did I say nary? Well, sorry. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, now I've got it pushed in, and here is, okay, there it is. There is our battery clip. So, apologize once again for all of the mucking around. I'm going to actually use the vacuum desoldering tool to solder this on, because at this point warming up another iron doesn't turn my crank. I want to get this done and get this done fast. So these 2 points here need to be soldered. All I'm going to do at this point is grab a little bit of solder wire, stick it over here, get the desoldering tool, and I just won't engage the pump, and so doing that puts a blob of solder right where I want it, and on the other side same notation. Boom. Okay, that's a smoky one. Yeah, that thicker, this is my thicker gauge solder wire, and it's got more flux in the core, so it produces more smoke. Okay, so can you have a look at that? Can you see that? Those two guys are now soldered fairly tightly. And yeah, okay, that's good enough. And we flip over here, we can see that in fact, yeah, the positive is up here and the negative is down here, and that's pretty much it at this point. I'm going to take one of my many CR202s that I have. Sorry, CR2032s. And they're in here. See, I buy them in bulk. Again, because I do a lot of this work. Alright. And that beats going to the drugstore any day. Okay, and I'll just raise this little tongue and slide this guy in. Like so. Alright, my friends. We now have battery restored board. Now what this means, of course, is that this synth is completely dead. It doesn't have any patch memory anymore. So we're going to put this back in the Juno, and we're going to take it back over to the workshop, and we're going to use the Visor Juno-106 to restore the patches to this guy. And that sure beats using a tape dump in my view. Anyway, we'll be right back.